Hey everyone, this is Nathan Williams with BlackRain79.com, and I'm back here with another hand history review for you guys. So today's hand was sent to me by Keith from the UK. As you guys can see there, he's got the old pocket kings in early position in a 6 max NL2 game. I think this hand was played on PokerStars. So anyways, let's just jump right into the action. So Keith opens up with a 3x raise, which if you guys have read my on my poker blog or read my first book, Caution on Microstakes, you know that I typically recommend a bit bigger of a raise size in these games. People still, especially NL2, the 1 cent, 2 cent game, and the reason why is because they just love to call at these stakes. So people still ask me these days, I mean, I've recommended over-raising in the past. I kind of became infamous for that, depending on who you talk to. I used to, back in the day, just make it 20 cents to go here because everyone was crazy back then and they'd call anything. The games have changed a little bit. I don't recommend making it 20 cents or 15 cents to go here, but I do think in most NL2 games these days, I still prefer a 4x raise here to say 8 cents, maybe even a 5x raise to 10 cents if it's a particularly crazy game with some fish on it. Basically, the bottom line is NL2 is still kind of in a league of its own these days, I would say, with online poker, where it just tends to attract the biggest beginners. It's obviously the very lowest stakes. It attracts the biggest whales. People love to just sit there, have a couple drinks on a Friday night and go crazy. It's 10 cents. Nobody cares. So this is a sort of a long-winded way of saying that I do prefer a bigger raise size here. I would say 8 cents minimum. Anyways, Keith makes it 3x. We do get a call out of the small blind there. Let me just get into the reads real quick on this guy. Okay, so Keith told me this guy is a 91-21-1. That is VPIP, PFR, and aggression factor. Those are HUD stats, by the way, if you've never heard of those. There'll be a link in the description below that'll give you more information how you get that data on your screen. It basically just tells you what type of player you're up against. A 91-21-1 is pretty much the craziest classic fish. This is a guy who's playing 91% of his hands. Extremely passive, what we call a whale. Just the kind of players that you're going to see pretty much all the time in the very lowest stakes games like this online or in a live in a casino. So anyways, the big blind actually comes along for the ride as well. I don't think the big blind plays any significant role in the hands, so villain 1, so I'm not going to bother getting into the read on that player. So let's go to a flop. Flop is 5-8 deuce rainbow. So real good flop for pocket kings there. There's not really a whole lot of draws going on. I mean, there's some stuff like a 6-7 or a 3-4, and obviously a guy who's playing 91% of his hands, those two hands are clearly in his range. So there are a couple straight draws, but there are no flush draws at all. And we just got a really, really solid overpair. So, I mean, as you guys know, you follow any of my work, my poker strategy advice in the past, you know that my basic idea here is just to bet versus these guys and get as much value as possible. So the old 91 VPIP whale, of course, comes out for his 2 cents min bet. Talked about this many times on my blog before about how this, and in my books as well, that this is a meaningless bet. I mean, it's a meaningless bet from both sort of what it means and from a mathematical perspective as well. So as I always talk about is that you should just ignore this basically and just pretend that the guy checked and just make your regular C bet. Villain 1, the big blind, does get out of the way. 2 cents is too rich for his blood. So it comes back to Keith here, and like I was just saying, I think that in general, when somebody just makes the minimum bet like this, you should just basically ignore that. It's not even a real bet as far as I'm concerned, and just make your standard C-bet in a spot like this. So Keith decides to make it 15 cents, which I think is fine, but against some whales who just won't fold anything, again, I have discussed in the past how I will use unorthodox bet sizings here of even over betting, versus people who are just not going to fold. Again, this is just goes back to my whole philosophy of playing the player in poker. And so anyways, but there's nothing wrong with making it just the sort of standard 15 cents here. And villain 5, of course, he's coming along for the ride. So we'll go to a turn. Now the turn is not the greatest card in the deck there because it pairs the top card on the flop, which means that if villain 5, of course, had an 8 of any sort on the flop, he now has trips and he's ahead of us, of course, on the turn. Now, however, okay, now against most standard players, most normal players, we would expect them to, when they call us on the flop, to have, a fair amount of eights in their range. But we need to remember that this guy is a 91 VPIP, which means he's playing 91% of his hands. And that means that he's going to call us on the flop with a very, very wide range of hands that just, an 8x hand is just one of those potential hands. He could have any card with a 2 in it, any card with a 5 in it. All of those draws that I talked about before with the 6-7, the 3-4. There's also a bunch of gut shots, random gut shots like an ace-4 or a 9-6. All of these hands are going to be in the range of a guy who's playing 90+% of his hands. And a player like this, these players are typically hardcore calling stations as well. So I do expect him to stick around on the flop with a whole host of just random overcards like King Jack for just no reason at all. He's decided to call King Queen, whatever, that's how these players play. So while it's not the greatest card in the deck against most normal sort of thinking opponents, against this particular player, it's not actually that big of a deal. So let's see what he does. Villain 5 does check to us, and Keith goes ahead and makes a bet in this situation, 35 cents, roughly about 2/3 pot or something. I think that's fine. Like I said, you could go higher in some cases against these players, but just making it sort of the standard size here is also fine. Villain 5 makes the call, and we go to a river. Now, this is the interesting part in the hand because Villain 5 leads out for, 1/3 pot. So, as you guys can see there at the top, we're getting pot odds of 4-1 in this spot here, which is a very good price. And Keith's main question in his hand is, should we call here? No, this is kind of the classic spot of these guys love to call with a random ace. They play all aces, these players, and they love to just call on the flop with a random ace. So could this guy have an ace? Yeah, of course he can. And also these players don't bluff that often because they're passive. But, however, given the situation and the price we're getting and the fact that we really only need to be right like 1 out of 4 times here or something just to break even on our money, there's really just no way that I'm ever going to be folding in a spot like this. Maybe if he made sort of a real bet size of 80 cents or $1, I would definitely be much more likely to consider folding. But in this spot here, I'm just going to be snapping it off, pretty much getting 4-1 on the pot and basically just forcing him to show me a better hand in a spot like this. Unless he spiked the ace or he's got trips or some sort of monster that he flopped on the flop, like a set of 5s or something. We're basically going to be ahead in a spot like this. You got to remember, a lot of these guys too, like they don't even, some of these guys that at NL2 that are just playing like this guy playing basically every single hand, a lot of them in some cases don't even understand the rules of poker. Like he might have flop 2 pair with 5 deuce and he thinks that's a good hand on the river. Like, I'm serious, I've seen this many, many times before. A guy will think he's value betting 5 deuce on the river. Just for anyone who's watching this, 5 deuce does not play on this river. It's been counterfeited by the 8 on the turn. But a lot of total beginners do not understand that. So for all these reasons, guys, I'm just going to be doing exactly what Keith did here and just calling. And it sucks when he turns over that hand. You guys have probably seen it many times. It's happened to me countless times. You got to remember that this is just one hand. We play poker for the long run, and we're always thinking about all of the different hands he can have in every situation. And I think that this is just part of his range here. I think he can have all sorts of random bluffs, ridiculous hands that he thinks he's value betting, hands that don't even play the board anymore, like a 5 deuce. Missed draws, all sorts of stuff. So, and we're getting 4-1, like I said. So, this is one of these spots where pot odds absolutely do matter. Like I said, if you bet something reasonable, like 80 cents or $1, something like this, which would, make it more like we're getting like 2-1 or something like that, I would be much more inclined to fold in a spot like that. But, given this price here, I'm just not going to be folding. And it's unfortunate, in this specific hand, he happened to spike it on the river. So anyways, that's about all I got for this hand here, guys. Just let me know your thoughts in the comments below on how you typically play in this situation. What do you do when the sort of classic whale fish like this, the ace comes on the river and he leads out for a 3rd pot or a 1/4 pot or something? What do you normally do in a spot like this? Do you Do you ever fold in a spot like that, or do you kind of follow my logic of you're getting great pot odds? I'm going to assume nobody's raising in a spot like this. I'm just going to throw that out there because I don't think you should ever be raising here, because it doesn't make no sense at all. We don't need to be bluffing in a spot like this. So I think it's going to be either fold or call. Those are really our two only options here. So let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. If you enjoy, I know I haven't put out any videos in a while, guys. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to really try to get some more videos regularly coming out here. So if you do enjoy watching MicroStakes poker strategy videos like this, make sure you hit that thumbs up button to let me know you want to see more of these. And also subscribe to my channel so you'll never miss when I do put out a new video. Lastly, make sure you grab a copy of my free poker cheat sheet. It's called Massive Profit at the Micros, the top link in the description below. It's a roughly 50-page little free poker cheat sheet that will give you my complete strategy on how I crush these stakes. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. It's been Nathan Williams with BlackRain79.com.